Hey out there, YouTube family. Welcome to another edition of the Kevin Strong Show. And in this video, we're going to talk about the failing economy. Just things that are going on that looks like they're going to get much, much worse before they get much, much better. I'm going to talk about different types of topics. If you're enjoying this type of content, please do me the honor of smashing that like button, commenting and share because you know I care. So first of all, I wanted to start off, a little bit talking about the stock market, what's going on. Clearly, it's off its all-time highs. We're getting a little bit of a rebound pop, so to speak, but please don't be fooled by this. This is what they call a dead cat bounce or a bear market rally, where you could potentially see certain individual stocks or broader stock indices just go up for a short period of time, but we're nowhere close to reaching a new all-time high again. That is my humble opinion. I'm not giving anybody any type of financial advice. Obviously, I'm just giving you my editorial. So you guys know how I feel about the housing market. I'll touch on that in a second, but just overall, things just don't look good. I do not expect the S&P to end up in a positive number by the end of the year. I don't think the stock market will finish positive in 2022. So please be careful if you are involved in this market. If you're going to swing trade, which is what I recommend because that's what I do, you find a little bit of momentum, you get into a particular stock, you may hold it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and then you sell it. You get in, you get out, repeat and rinse and repeat, as it said. So I want to transition a little bit here talking about consumer debt. Consumer debt is really, really getting awful. It's at an all-time high. I've talked about this ad nauseum. Inflation is eating away at people. You have things like property taxes are starting to kick in. There's places in Florida where it's hard to get flood insurance or homeowners insurance in Florida. Different insurance companies in that part of the country are pulling out of that market. And obviously, if you're a homeowner, you're required to maintain that type of insurance on the property. So it's just a hot mess for a lot of people. I do not believe the economic numbers when they talk about unemployment being at like 3.5%. I just have a hard time understanding that. I think the real unemployment number is probably 20%, if not higher. And I think a lot of the jobs that they're telling us that are available for the average American citizen basically is service jobs or hospitality and leisure. Well, how many jobs are available to the point where somebody can secure a quality of life? Pay your rent, pay your mortgage, have some money left over. Now, that's incumbent upon the person, but I'm just saying there's not a lot of gainfully employed jobs available, so to speak. So a lot of those numbers are basically they don't reflect the reality of what most people need in order to basically sustain their livelihood. I talked about all-time debt. Talk a little bit about housing. You guys know how I feel about this. I think it's moving a lot quicker than a lot of people have anticipated. Clearly, the national narrative have changed. There are exceptions to the rule, but I do think overall housing will continue to climb, and I think that problem will exacerbate by the first or second quarter of 2023. Foreclosures are starting to spike. That's something that I deal with. Ironically, I just got off the phone with a potential client in the we'll just say in the Las Vegas area. Pretty important guy. It was actually ironic. He and I talked for about 40 minutes, and this guy works with Chris Angel, the international magician, and David Copperfield. I mean, right at that level. So maybe I need some background music like the Jeffersons moving on up. I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying though, this is hitting all types of economic levels. So like I said, housing will continue to actually get worse before it gets better. Those of you who follow me on Facebook, you see some of the information that I've posted out there. Just be careful. And I've talked about this other thing before, but I'm going to mention again, because I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and a lot of creative real estate financing groups. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Please take it with a grain of salt. Please be careful with your long-term real estate investing in terms of buying property in areas that are in severe water drought. So What I mean by that is that there's a scarcity map that is with water drought that, obviously everybody's heard about Lake Mead and what's going on in Arizona and Las Vegas. And there's a lot of areas on the western part of the United States that are really experiencing severe drought. Seems like that's not affecting the Midwest and the East Coast as much. The state of Washington is kind of like bifurcated a little bit, where the western part of the state seems like it has good natural water resources, and then the eastern part over there in Spokane, Washington. For those of you who don't know the area, Spokane's about 4 hours east of the Seattle area. They are experiencing some severe drought. Water is life, folks. And if it gets to a point where that situation doesn't resolve itself or it elevates to a critical level, you will see property values plummet overnight. As I sit on the sideline waiting for this housing crash to look for opportunities, that's going to be one of the things at my forefront in terms of my investment strategy, is looking for places that have good water and food sources. And a lot of investors get caught up in the numbers and the cash flow and the creative financing, in that you could be buying into a dry pit. So take that with a grain of salt. I talked about property tax. I talked about insurance. People are actually using credit cards to actually pay for groceries. I think there was some recent statistic that came out that says almost 30% of recent purchases on credit cards are related to food expenses. People just don't have enough. I've talked about this ad nauseum, is that it's always the maintenance on something, never the payment, right? So you have a house and you can afford the payment, and it's a 3,000 square foot home, but then moving to 2022, what has gone up? Utilities, all these other ancillary costs that have skyrocketed over the last 2 years that you didn't anticipate, because a lot of people bought not only at the top of the market, but they bought at the top of their budget. And both of those are a recipe for financial disaster. As a result of all the things that I mentioned in this video, I think we are going to be coming on a massive wave of layoffs starting the fourth quarter of this year, and that's going to pick up steam in 2023. You guys know how I feel about this. I've been talking about this for almost 18 months. If you are a W-2 employee, don't be so quick to quit your job. I've said this ad nauseum, especially if you were just being enticed by a signing bonus or even a higher hourly wage. Because first of all, you've got to work long enough for that new employer to qualify for unemployment. And if you are fortunate enough to qualify for unemployment, when there's an economic downturn, which in my humble opinion, I think we're going to experience here, you're probably going to be the first to get laid off. That old saying goes, first in, first out. So finally, last but not least, there's a food crisis. I don't know if you guys are starting to notice it. I noticed it in my local grocery store in the greater Seattle area. Just certain items are taking a little bit longer. I think we've gotten laxed about food preparation. I am a big component of that. I'm not a prep nerd, but I do believe in having adequate food. And please keep some money out of the banking system. If you are fortunate enough to have some money saved up, try to get anywhere from 30 to 60 days of your monthly expenses set aside outside of the banking system. So in the event something happens, you can go about your business, not only paying your bills, but getting gas and food and things like that until things get restored. So you know my motto. I'm going to end it with that. My video, I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, please subscribe to my channel. Smash that like button, comment, and share, because I care. And finally, keep your credit score up and your debt down. This was the Kevin Strong Show, and I'll see you guys in the next video.